Small businesses are the backbone of America, and they help keep the spirit of Texas alive. But did you know as many as 50% will close their doors forever after just 5 years? Well, we're here to change that. This is The Beef. We know how tough it is to be an entrepreneur today. We're giving small business owners a platform to share their story. You'll hear it all, the highs and the lows, the good and the bad, but most importantly, you'll learn. Welcome to The Beef. The Beef.
But I'm going to air guitar that intro one day. All that music just sounds so good. It just makes me want to air guitar it. And now that we're on YouTube, I feel like that would be something the viewers would love. But hey, welcome to another episode of the Beef Podcast. I'm your host as always, John Kelly, aka John the Marketer on Instagram, now on YouTube, TikTok, all kinds of stuff. Man, I'll tell you what, I went viral yesterday. I had a TikTok video on my personal account. I thought it was a pretty great video. Some people may not like it, so you may not want to head to my personal TikTok account. It's not safe for work, but man, it was a funny video. It actually went viral. I was completely shocked, like doubled my followers in 3 to 4 hours. I'm just trying to get my John the Marketer TikTok to do the same thing. So please head over to John the Marketer on TikTok and get your subscribe in there, your follow, and check out the videos we're putting out. We're trying to put out a lot more content on there, so make sure you're checking that stuff out. But in the studio with me today, I actually have a special guest host, Video John. Video John has been on one episode prior.
At least one.
Yeah, I like to.
I've been in the room for more, but
right. Oh yeah,
there's evidence of me being in one. I know.
Yeah, in the room for many, but a guest on a few. Just like to bring him in for an outside perspective, especially when we have a guest like we have today, Kyle with ProjectZero. Kyle, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, appreciate you guys having us on, talk about the organization.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. I say it every single episode, and I literally sound like a broken record at this point, but I'm excited to talk about this because, of course, most people know my full-time job is in fire. So this is something that hits near and dear to my heart. It's not the first 501c3 I've had on that does that, but this one is definitely something that I've recently been through that is super important for first responders, the military, all of that stuff. So we're going to hop right into it with our icebreaker question. So our icebreaker question for today is, what's your favorite scary movie?
Oh, man. I like The Shining always comes up number one. I don't know why. It's not even one of the scariest movies I've ever seen, I don't think. But I think it's one of the first ones, so it was kind of taboo. Like, you're not supposed to watch that yet type thing. And so I think that's why. And I don't know. All work, no play, make Jack dull boy.
Scary movie. We don't do those in our house too much.
Really?
Yeah, like my wife doesn't like them.
Yep.
She still gets freaked out. And when we visited the Alamo, we stayed like on the grounds. We had a hotel that really freaked her out. I had nothing to do with it, but I'd say, man, what would be the most recent like thing that comes to memory is I recall like when The Ring came out, right?
Oh,
that was really freaky, and that was probably one that actually I think it threw me over the edge to watch that. I don't like them. I like action films, but that was one that I'll probably watch once, and that was it.
Yeah, we're the same way at my house. Like, scary movies aren't a big thing because exactly the same reason. My wife is not a fan.
Yeah.
She is absolutely terrified of scary movies, and I'm like, it's fake, right? It doesn't matter. It scares the crap out of me. Yeah. But I enjoy scary movies.
Yeah.
And I'm not one that's easily scared. It's hard to scare me or even startle me sometimes. Mm-hmm. When it happens, it's a crazy experience for me. Yeah, I love it because it's like an adrenaline rush. You're like, I don't know how to act in this feeling right now.
Right, yeah.
I think one of my favorites is, and I was actually shocked this was considered a scary movie because I see it more as like a thriller, but The Purge.
Okay.
The Purge is technically a scary movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought it would be a thriller.
Man, I enjoy the heck out of it.
Yeah.
And if we talk about, I think we can call it a classic at this point because we're all old now. If we talk about the classics, only because of the parody, I like Scream.
Okay.
Yeah.
And only because of Scary Movie and that whole
that's why you
that
like
whole shebang. Yeah. Man, I think Scream is just so classic, and it's like that terrible
horror
that
B
terror
movie.
horrible
Yeah.
horror film. Yeah.
You know, I remember I watched this movie called Dark Harvest one time, and it was like a low budget horror movie. And I remember thinking the dudes in the scarecrow, it was like a cheap scarecrow mask that they used from the dollar store, literally from the dollar store. I had the same mask that I bought for Halloween.
Those are the best though.
Yeah,
flicks.
I know. And yeah, you're looking at this stack of hay. The girl goes into the barn. They focus in on the stack of hay, and you're like, the guy's in the stack of hay. He's about to jump out of it. And he jumps out of it. Everybody screamed. It was so funny, though, because we all were calling it, making fun of it. It's about to jump out right there.
Still scares you.
Still scared you.
That's the crazy part about Scream, man. Like, she does all the things that we know not to do.
Yeah.
Run upstairs where you're pinned and just, oh my God.
Let's pin ourselves in. That's the number one.
And then when you take care of the bad guy, the last thing you do in a Hollywood film is run up to the bad guy because he's not dead yet. Like,
Right.
we know this. This is
I was talking about this with somebody one time, though. If you took all of those idiosyncrasies out of the Hollywood movie and it was like real life, then a lot of those movies would be 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make it Hollywood,
Movie over.
right?
Yeah,
It'd be
exactly.
more too hyper realistic.
Like Taken, Liam Neeson calls the cops.
Yeah.
Movie over.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
I freaking love that movie, man. That's, I don't know who you are.
I have a very special set of skills.
Yeah. But we're here today to talk about Project Zero. Now, Project Zero, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but this is all about mental health for first responders, military, but not in your traditional sense of, hey, I need to talk to somebody and let me just sit down in a counselor's office and lay on the couch and spill out all my problems, because that stuff doesn't work for us. For us, we need something more real. And what's more real than going out and going mudding or climbing up some rocks in a Jeep or a Toyota, or just getting outdoors and starting a bonfire, drinking some beer and talking with your peers. And so it's more of like that professional counseling meets peer support group.
I think you got it almost 100% correct. You know, that was kind of the foundation in which we started in, which was, you know, using we like to call it adventure-based therapy to engage our audience, and that's, you know, current military, to be veterans, first responders, frontline responders, right, nurses, doctors, and we also do support that by another wing too, where we do have professional resources available for that when we get to that point. But sometimes I think, as you know, as I know, it takes a while to get there. So maybe, you know, we use that avenue as an icebreaker. You know, not a scary movie question, but we use it as an ability to kind of just hold an open space with people who get the journey you've been on.
So how are you familiar with that then? Where did you come from, and how did you get this idea in your head to start Project Zero?
Oh man, so way back in 1984. Yeah.
Oh, in the
No.
1900s.
No, so I joined the Marine Corps in 2004. I actually grew up in close to the area. I'm from Champions, which is right down the road. And actually, when I was younger, there's a daycare up off it's that church right off past Zion on the right. They used to have a daycare, and that's where
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking about. Yeah.
So like Tomball was just an extension. It was a place you go to, and now it's just all interconnected. But you know, it was really small when I grew up here. So I actually came back home to start everything. I'm from the Houston area. I went to Klein High School, and then when I graduated, I decided to do the smart thing and go to college. That didn't work out too well, but that wasn't smart. So
Not all of us are fit for college, that's for sure.
no, it took me a while to get fit for college. So I joined the Marine Corps in 2004. I served until about 2011, and worked in communications. And I've deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. I've had friends that joined the Marine Corps. I think the thing to do was around 2003 was to join the military, because it was like, oh look, there's something going on, and I can go do that. So I've got friends that are still in, friends that have gotten out, friends I've made along the way in different branches, from different countries and different branches. And I think what it was for me wasn't necessarily 100% about me. It was about what you see along the way and the people that you meet. So Kyle gets out in 2011. Third person, like, very rarely. All right. So 2011, go back to school and graduate through that, and I started getting involved a little bit in the veteran organizations like SVA, Student Veterans Association, and start meeting some other guys who've been through some heavier stuff, right? They were in Fallujah in 2004, which I wasn't in, and they were through some other things. And I think through all of our service, all our experience, just kind of we can still have these conversations. But I didn't do a lot then. I was just kind of more concerned about me. I gotta go to work and do the thing you're supposed to do. So went and worked at oil field. 90% of my office were vets, so that was pretty cool. It was really comforting along the way to have those guys of all eras. Gulf War vets, had a couple Vietnam guys that in there. Of course, GWAT, which is the conflict since 2001. And yeah, you know, that was the cool part, is getting to meet all of those people along the way, and then slowly getting involved in some of these different organizations and just meeting people. And unfortunately, you know, watching some of them either progress, that was good, or deteriorate. And that was kind of the point. You know, you start just seeing this need that we know is unmet, that we still keep striving for, right? You hear numbers like 17 a day, 22 a day. There's, depending on what statistic that's out there. And then eventually, you know, a couple of us arrived at this idea to, let's just go take on something on our own, because why not? Right? I mean, isn't that really how everything starts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, hey, I see a problem.
A huge need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Let's try to fill it. So we all kind of left an organization we were volunteering for. I'll leave it unnamed, and just decided to try something. So you have an idea, absolutely no plan whatsoever, because that's the way we roll. And what you see today is kind of what we've morphed into over the past 2 years, and that's also been really rough because the past 2 years have just been insane.
Yeah.
So that's a high level view, but yeah, honestly, you know, from my service in the military and watching people that I served with, and then meeting people along the way, that was the biggest part. That the biggest catalyst was like who you've, I guess, cataloged into friendships or into acquaintances, and just kind of watched them either move on and how they were successful, or unfortunately the ones that, you know, have eroded or degraded, and unfortunately sometimes are no longer here with us. And you know, how can we make a difference in some way that we know how, that we're competent in? And you know, as a Marine, we're not competent in a lot.
I hear y'all are experts on crayons.
Yes, they're delicious. So we do snack on those, and I've actually gotten crayons in the mail. So that's a great inside joke.
Yeah,
it's not even an inside joke anymore.
No, it's definitely, yeah. My old lieutenant was, or is, I know you can't say former Marine, right?
Yeah.
He is a Marine. That's no longer active duty. So, and that was one of the biggest jokes, of course, going around the station all the time. And we got this new volunteer firefighter, and he's now a full-time firefighter, but he was Navy. So as soon as he got to the station and heard Marine, he just went straight to those jokes. And I was like, bro, you are brand new in the station, but you're going to fit in because you got a smart ass mouth, and I like it. You know, mental health is such a taboo subject.
Oh, straight up.
And
100%.
I hate that, man, because I think it's led to, I don't know if you know this, but Texas is one of the worst, if not the worst, states for offering mental health services.
Yeah. So in our research, we found that states like Texas, which is unfortunate, and we have a huge population, a huge veteran population, a huge first responder population, that we're still really behind a lot of other states. And, you know, from a non-political standpoint, you know, we look at places that offer those services. The other thing is how effective do they offer those services? So the other statistic we have to look at is like, how effective are they at what they do offer? And fortunately, we've had a lot of great organizations that have started up.
There we go. We'll get English together.
Yeah,
I mean,
English.
it's Monday for me, so
I'm an Aggie too, so that makes it even worse, right? Like,
I got so many jokes now.
Oh, man.
An Aggie Marine. This is great.
I was gonna, you know, the joke is that I say is like, I'm addicted to cults. I like Jeeps. I'm an Aggie and I'm a Marine.
Yeah.
So that's not actually true, but that's kind of what I do. But
I live the Jeep life too, so I know, I get it.
Yeah, when we met up for lunch the other day, and I didn't have mine, I was so sad.
Yeah.
We couldn't just park next to each other.
I
That's
know.
what we do.
Couldn't park on the tire.
No, I didn't even have it. It's up in Amarillo right now.
Oh,
We-
gotcha.
But yeah.
Yesterday, I just got off shift this morning, and yesterday my firefighter who was driving is a huge Toyota fan. So he's got a 4Runner.
Yeah.
He's selling it, he's already ordered a brand new Tundra, and he is all about wheeling, but he's also all about Toyota when it comes to it. So he gives me crap about my Jeep all the time, and then of course I give him crap about his Toyota.
Well, yeah.
And so a part-time firefighter that came in to cover so that he could ride up, he has a Jeep, and I'm parked next to the Toyota, and then on the other side was the other Jeep. So we had a nice little Toyota sandwich there. It was pretty good.
That's what we do, right?
And if my buddy's Jeep would have been black as well, it'd be funny because the Toyota, of course, is white. So we would have had an Oreo. Yeah. But anyway, I digress, as I normally do on this show. Quality of mental health services is definitely important too, because you're right. Quantity is not the most important thing. So you may have 50% more availability of these organizations than we do, but if they're 10% of the quality we offer, that's not necessarily a better thing either. So you're right. There's some things to look at there.
No, 100%. It's true. So a lot of times, and I mean, you talk business on here. A lot of businesses will throw everything they can at it, and make quantity of services and quantity of everything, but that doesn't equal quality. So, with what we did, we decided to focus on two main efforts, and that was professional mental health services. That is a core of us, and we do provide that. And if you notice, we don't market it too much. It's all word of mouth. But the thing we do market very well, I think, we'll have to get your assessment on that one. Okay, is doing the adventure-based therapy, right? And so from that standpoint, if we focus on those two things, and you see other organizations that they're really all in on one or two competencies, that then we'll find more quality coming out. But sometimes what we'll see in especially our research getting this organization up is that they're throwing everything. I need family counseling, I need couples counseling, I need these different areas, and sometimes it does not equate quality. And I'm not knocking those organizations by any means, because I'll even promote a few on here because we share values with them. Like, you guys are familiar with Lone Survivor Foundation. You've worked with them,
absolutely,
right? Mighty Oaks Foundation, which is right up the road. You've got Boulder Crest, you've got Camp Southern, you've got all these places, and they focus really tightly on one area, and it's perfect. And we see a lot of them here in Texas. And the unfortunate thing is, I don't think what we see is not a lot of people know a lot of these organizations do exist. We do, because we're in that community, but the greater population doesn't know. So when they're seeking services for a veteran that may be in an outlier county, right? They have nothing for them.
Yeah. A great organization we had on the show was Mosaics of Mercy.
Okay. Yep.
So you're familiar with them?
I'm familiar with them.
Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of what they do, is act as that connection.
Yep.
Because you're right, 100%. We also fail in that, connecting people with those services. And it's hard because when I think about things like an EAP, for instance, at work, that program, while it's great that there's assistance for employees there, it's not something I really feel comfortable reaching out to, because first of all, it's tied to my employer.
Yep. And
then second of all, it just seems too traditional for me. And I've said it before because, again, another 501c3 we've had on, they talked all about mental health with first responders and providing those services to them and peer support groups to them, much like you, but in just a different, like, firefighter to firefighter, instead of first responders and military. And that's one of the main issues, is that I'm more comfortable going to an organization like that, or like yours, than I am with that traditional therapist. Not that I won't, and not that I haven't, because I have. I just don't want to go sit on the couch and just talk to somebody. I'd rather go wheeling. I'd rather cuss. I'd rather drink, and I'd rather sit around a bonfire and talk to people who understand where I've been.
So I'll get you on one thing, and this is cool. So we actually do preach. There's two kind of cultures that we have, and we call it our campfire culture. So there's a little bit different. So we might turn into a bonfire later on, where we kick it on and we swap those interesting stories that families, they hear them, they still think we're a little off, but it's just releasing some story that we have.
My family knows I'm off, so.
Which is sometimes it's a pressure relief valve. We'll kick that on a little bit later, but we usually start with a campfire. And some guys will talk about their jobs, their experiences, and some of those things, and then you get into the little more wily stuff that, like, hey, when I was a young Marine, I was 21 years old and I could first drink, and that comes a little bit later. But you're right. One of the things we've run into, and we've talked about, and I've actually been to some emergency service districts and talked to their people, is that, hey, we offer this great EAP. And I think that's excellent. You need that in place, because
for sure,
one, there's not one solution to solve any of this.
No.
None whatsoever. And some people will go that route. Some people want to be a little bit more shielded until they're ready to go that route. So they want to go to something that's confidential. So on our professional services side, or total wellness services as we like to brand it, is that you can go talk to somebody. It's completely anonymous, it's completely confidential, and it costs you absolutely nothing to go as long as you need to. And we average about 13 sessions with a counselor per person that's come through. And the idea is that maybe that's what you need to then circle back into your organization and say, hey, I'm ready to talk to the chief, ready to talk to the boss, ready to talk to somebody. But honestly, that's because it's still such a stigma, and I don't think we'll ever get over that 100%, that maybe you need that third party that isn't tied to anything to get comfortable having that conversation, to move yourself in a new direction, and then come back to the job ready and fresh to go. Or maybe you were more comfortable talking about those situations, getting involved in your peer support groups, getting more involved in that. But sometimes it takes stepping away, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the problem is, and I know the problem is sometimes it's really actually we're overcorrecting because it's so stigmatized that we're just going to pump it down your throat, and then hopefully that will attract you. But I think, as you know, and you work on the marketing side, if you over just mash, videos 24/7 of this one particular product, people are going to move more away from it, and they're going to move towards it. So really kind of taking that hands-off approach, we found has started to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, and we on the marketing side, just to correlate that, we see that with social media. With Instagram, you should never take to your post feed to sit there and highlight your product in a salesy type way. You shouldn't say, I sell hats and here's my hat and it's this much and you should buy one.
No,
you need to
it's personality. This is what I look like wearing the hat. This is the places that I go with my hat. These are the kind of experiences you will have in my hat.
Exactly. That way you're creating engaging content that someone likes to see, and then they go, oh wow, that hat looks really nice. And this is ABC Hat Company. I bet I can buy this hat on their website. And then they come to you in your DMs. They slide over into your DMs. And that's where you make your sale. And it's the same thing to me. And this is a personal anecdotal experience. But for me, if you come out when I show up to go wheeling and you're like, oh yeah, bro, so here's the thing. We offer professional counseling, and here's what it is, and here's how you qualify, and here's what you get, and here's what you need to do, and this is important, and I've got your back, brother, and don't you worry about it, and all that stuff. I'm gonna be like, man, I am never going wheeling with these creeps again, because it's too much. It's in my face. But if you just play it off, kind of like that, hey, we're always here for you, man. Like anytime you want to come out with us, we'd love to listen to you. But just so you know, we offer like full on straight up professional counseling too, if you want that. But anyway, let's go out and do this.
And the great thing is we correlate a lot of the things you experience while you're out there, and it's really subtle. So when like the team and I talk, which is mainly the board members, and we've added in new members, because we've literally had an overhaul of our board. We have an adventure director now who's also, we're a working board, so it's not like we just hire these guys in. It's like, hey, you're on the board, but you're also helping. But we had that subtle conversation. Have your eyes out for this. Look out for this. If the conversation can sway that way, fine. If not, that's okay. But the biggest part, and this is a word that we used to use in other organizations, vulnerability. We can do that, right? We can tell your story, or you can tell your experiences with other people, and it's completely, it's unscripted, it is. But we do have our intention going in there of like, hey man, the idea, go share your experiences, and that's how we build on things too. And then experiencing something new. So now you have a new shared experiences with a new tribe, I guess, if you want to call it that, a family, a group of men and women who have a similar background, and it just starts to get cohesive. And I think that's where we really like to see that go. And we are really subtle about it. Hey, this is something else that we offer. If we have mental health out there as in a professional, he or she will play a back seat. They're just part of the crew. They're part of our team, and if you need them, they're there. If you want to talk to them, they're there. But they're there just as we are, to just get out and experience what nature has to offer.
What I find interesting about that is what you're doing there is you're kind of taking away this gap of patient versus doctor. We're peers. Now I can be vulnerable with you because I trust you. Because we're on the same level. You're not going to hold this over my head. I think some of therapy is that, just feeling the feeling of inadequacy. It's okay to not be okay. But it's not okay to stay not okay.
That's one of the things too that we also on the professional side try to erase. One of the counselors that we were working on bringing in to help us out was stating a fact. He goes, actually 80% of it is relationship between the counselor and between the patient. And so if they can break down that wall and make it feel more peer-to-peer, which it really is, and that's actually what we do go for. So it's funny you mentioned that.
Yeah.
So if you want to get scouted for our organization, I say scouted as if you're going out and trying to get baseball players.
Picking them off or what?
But when we look for people, and when Jennifer Lawrence, better than the actress, our licensed independent clinical social worker who's on our board and our clinical lead, when she goes out and has a conversation with somebody, it's, what is your background?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I started at, XYZ agency, and, I was working with small kids, and I like to, dance into sunflowers. That's cool. That's you. But we need people who came up in this industry. So one of our other counselors who's volunteered with us, and he's going to come out to, he said it'd be past tense. Well, the golf tournament we would have had this guy named Mario. He's an Army veteran turned therapist. He runs an organization or a company called Houston Veterans Counseling and provides services for us. You could have a conversation with that guy, and you're going to relate if you come from a similar background.
Right.
Another guy was a 8-year law enforcement officer. Another one we're looking at, she served, I can't remember how many years. I don't run that side of things. That's Jennifer's.
I got you.
But, I think 10 plus years in the Air Force, and her meditations all swear. So it's really good. When she told me about that, I was like, we need to bring her on.
Yeah.
So we actually really do look on that side to, if we're going to bring somebody in, you have to understand the culture that these men and women come from.
Yep.
And if you're going to work with them, you're going to work with them understanding it's going to be a more peer-to-peer relationship. Now, we do love having the professional side. We like having peers, and peers are great, but peers aren't professionals.
For
so
sure.
we kind of have to really play that close. So you might, when you're out, develop a relationship with another veteran or a first responder that's on the trip. But the thing we also have to be cognizant of and aware of is that we don't want that person turning into a therapist. We've seen that before, and that's very dangerous.
Well, they're suffering too.
Yeah, they are.
So
they could have made it through, and they make a very good guide or a mentor, but counselor, no. And if they were going for that for education, they eventually get to that point, that's great. But what we want to do is just kind of set the tone is like everybody is here to make better and improve everybody else and to support everybody else. And going back to the actual event when you're either camping or you're freezing your butt off in Duro a couple weeks ago, is that you can translate a lot of those things. So if we go into recovery mode, right, you stick a vehicle and you have to start pulling out the straps and you have to start problem solving. You know how many of these guys go to their natural state? They're in. It's just the
problem solvers.
Yeah, problem solvers.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, you need to work on this. You need a spot here. Somebody get the camera. Because we need to film all.
No, that is absolutely important.
But then we start to communicate, and honestly, it puts people kind of in this confident mode of being able to communicate and to problem solve. And we might debrief that a little bit, 5-10 minutes at the most, because honestly, that's all you need. But you can say, hey man, you start pointing out these. You're really confident here. You took on that obstacle really well. Hey, thanks for doing this. And what I feel, and we're capturing more on this as we can, is like, what does that do to somebody long term? How are we being more focused on the solution, which is them being more strong in who they are than anything else besides tell me about your darkest secrets. That doesn't always work.
It's the little things in life, and as first responders, those add up so easily, where it's like, I didn't feel appreciated here. I worked my ass off at the job, whatever it is, military, fire, EMS, police, or if you're out of that now and you're into teaching or whatever it is, it's like I worked my ass off here and I didn't get what I deserved. And then this person doesn't feel happy about my service, and then this person doesn't feel, and it's just one thing after another stacks up, and it's always the straw that broke the camel's back. It's never a huge log that fell down on the camel. It's just a straw. And that's because all of those small stressors add up to be a big thing.
It's just compounding over time. And what's really funny is funny in the sense of that it's staring us right in the face, not that it's actually hilarious.
And because we get each other's, and that's what's so crucial is
people,
like the average listener is like, well, what's funny about that? And meanwhile, I'm like, it's
terrible.
That's crazy. That's funny.
So we always have to explain.
Funny.
I always have to walk back when I say something, because when I talk to an audience that gets it, they're just like, oh yeah, it was right. It means it's blindly staring you in the face. Is that a lot of things that count for you'll see in veterans suffering PTSD is a childhood trauma, right? Poor relationships in the family, abusive parents, alcoholism running rampant. You'll find that in the first responder side too. Then a lot of those veterans are kind of overcorrect. I'd say veterans, people who serve, are now correcting because they want to do better. And then you'll find that maybe something they experienced was then they might have gotten out and been fine. And this isn't everybody, but some of the cases that I've seen coming along the way, or I've researched, or I've studied, or talked with our team, is that maybe the one thing that sets them off was the straw that broke the camel's back. We saw in 2015 when the oil industry started going down. I was laid off from there. That was a good one. That just kind of took all that pressure and just cracked the dam, and things didn't go too well for me. And I watched that with other guys too that had a similar background. It wasn't the fact that the transition out of military, which is a tough thing on its own, and we see that for guys who are either retiring or transitioning out of the first responder side too. That is a struggle as well. But again, it's these multiple points of stress that eventually just become too much. And it could be the day of, the next day, a week, month, year, 10 years from now. Eventually something's going to give if they don't address it. And that's not to say everybody's going to do that. There's some very resilient folks, right? They bounce right back. Everything is fine. And the one thing, I think we said this at lunch, is we don't ever go in assuming people are broke, ever. Right? Because if you go in with that and assuming you need to fix something, is the minute they're going to either become really guarded and defensive. You just come in wanting the best for them. And I think that is the thing that has been I'd say a game changer. We're still getting there, but has really helped as we've evolved, as we've changed team members out. We come in just wanting to be a base of support and a base of just wanting the best for the people that we work with. And I actually have something for that. So we went to the Assist the Officer Gala this weekend. My wife and I, we like to get fancy every now and then.
Yeah,
so I do not like wearing suits, but we hadn't been somewhere in a couple of years, especially since COVID. I think the last gala we went to was a veteran one. Anyway, so we've got friends and family that are Houston police officers, and we've done some work with Houston Police Officer Union. And I had mentioned to Tim Whitaker, who is the president of Assist the Officers Houston. I said, "Oh man, we were looking at going to the gala. It's just the golf tournament's coming up and everything else." He's like, "I got 2 tickets for you." It's like, "Oh, great, thanks. When is it?" He's like, "Tomorrow." I was like, "Okay."
Short notice,
but it's great. Get a sitter for the kids, send them off to the grandparents' house, put on the suit, get the dress going, and get to go sit in this room with some of Houston's finest, right, on the Houston Police Department. And they hadn't had the gala since 2018. So you had 2019, 2020, and 2021 recipients of Police Officer of the Year, Investigator of the Year. And just getting to hear some of those things that you don't hear on the news, the case reports, like the own heroes in our backyard that don't get acknowledged. And so that was another thing that kind of got us as an organization was, okay, I know this because I've got my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my father-in-law are RHPD. I've got friends that got out of the military that went to police departments or here in Houston, ones that went fire, ones that went EMS. And we can talk about those things, but it's a blip on the news. Like, oh, hey, here's this guy, or hey, here's this cop that beat up on somebody else. That's 1% of the 99 that are out there just trying to do good in the community, and it's stressful. So you got this room that's really uplifting and supporting these other guys, that went through. When you hear some of the cases, you're like, we heard this happened, but we didn't hear the detail. And then you get to talk to those guys, and then I just drop in the mission, and that's it, and say, man, I'm just grateful you're here and you did the right thing to save your partner or whatever it is. If you need anything, just text me. And that's it. We're just here to support you, and you don't have to preach to them, and it'll pay dividends in the long run. But that's a big thing, is that audience, you still don't see it. And I know you said, I heard a word earlier, unappreciated. Yeah, it's true. I mean,
that was my point to that statement, is that all those little things add up to tear you down, and it's kind of like a weight loss journey where all those little things that you eat weigh you up, right? They make you weigh more.
Great analogy.
And to get it off, you have to do those little things one at a time to drop all that weight. And it's the same thing in my mind. It's just, it may not be the end all be all to their problem. It may not be the solution. But if you can give those little confidence boosts, what is vulnerability? I mean, vulnerability is not having confidence, not having faith in yourself, not having, you're being vulnerable, you're opening up, and you're bearing it all and just saying, I've got a problem, here's my problem, and I can't handle this. But if you can just give those little words of affirmation, and I say that to people so often in life, whether it's business and we're talking about free reviews or free shares or likes of your friend's post or whatever the case may be. It's like those little things that you do mean so much to certain people because we never know what somebody's going through.
Yep.
And you know, quickly, you're right. Like when somebody walks up and they want to be a part of that event, you want to make sure that you are generic enough because everyone's fight is so different.
Yeah.
Not everyone needs the same thing. And it may just be as simple as like, hey, we're just happy to have you here. Because I know I plan on attending some events. And I'm not saying I need to come to professional counseling right now.
Yeah.
Everybody can benefit from talking to a therapist. If you're scared you're going to look dumb because you want to go talk to a therapist, then reach out to me and I'll get you over that because you don't know the burden you're carrying until you sit in that office and you bear your entire life to somebody and then they go, damn, well, no wonder you're so screwed up. Like, I get it. Like, listen to your life, you know? So everybody needs therapy. But I don't have a significant issue right now that says I need to go wheeling with these guys because I need to get some shit off my chest. I just want to go because it's great to be surrounded by words of affirmation. And it's great to be surrounded by people who understand you and who say, hey, we're all in the same boat, man. So good to see you. Thanks for coming out.
So, the mental health space, you know, the conversation always seems to center around getting better.
Yeah.
We don't ever put emphasis into mental health when we're talking about staying good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why
God,
do we
that is
have
so
to
good.
be bad? Why do we have to have a bad mental health state to work on your mental health?
Yeah.
Why can't you work on good mental health to get great mental health? You know?
That is
That's like,
so good. Like, that's a tagline.
Yeah.
Don't get better, stay good.
yeah,
Like,
keep it. You
I
can
like
take it,
that.
run with
I'm
it.
stealing that one.
Yeah, have
that's it. Project Zero's new tagline on the website.
How do we trademark that really fast? Like,
Here, I'll get the
got
government
trademark lawyer
site.
and the business one.
Right?
Sweet.
Trademark.gov over.
But dang it, you got the computer.
I got a computer.
Yeah. Cheater
But
over there.
it's absolutely true too, and that's I think a thing again when we come in and we say we assume if we come in assuming people aren't good and that they're here because they're broke, maybe they're just searching for a new community or something else to do. They're already on this path of doing really well for themselves.
Right.
They just want to sustain that. But I think everybody, what I see, and this isn't necessarily true, and this is but a thought that's crossed my mind and I've witnessed it is people want to see that roller coaster. And, you know, like the other day, I actually texted a buddy of mine. I was like, hey man, dude, I feel really unregulated. I got this whole tournament that will have already been done by the time the podcast is
Yeah.
said we do that and we were talking about
no, I mean, everybody, I think by now,
24,
24, 25 episodes live by the time of this recording. I think our guests get it that it's been very popular. So many people are on that this episode will probably air in May or June. So it's fine.
But we have an event coming up. I just got off of one doing. We went to Paladero Canyon, so that's the outdoor piece. Now I'm doing a fundraiser, and then I'm doing a veterans wheeling event right after that, or veterans and first responders. And then after that, we've got shark fishing, and then after that, I've got to do more fundraising. And so constantly, I've got this tug of events that are going on, and I feel like. Personally, you're right. Sometimes I feel like I have to ride that roller coaster before I do anything about it. So I text a buddy of mine, but my buddy Bob, he's in Iowa. I met him through another organization. I was like, hey, dude, I'm feeling very unregulated. He's like, well, and he hasn't responded back, but I know his response. So this is just like, I think it was yesterday. He's a teacher, so he's busy, right? And his response is going to be like, then why'd you let it get there? Like, oh, and that's all I needed. Okay, yeah. I could have.
You're right. Sack up. I got it. Yeah.
Put the laptop down. Go run. Go exercise. Go read a book. That's actually one thing I've started to frame personally since I started this is that a lot of that is still business growth. Like nobody. You probably had people on who talked about that, and they feel like they're constantly like at work, and I'm like, put on a podcast, right?
Yeah.
Put on a book. That's business growth. You're working on yourself, which is then going to pay dividends in your business. Go run for an hour. I come up with a lot. Hold on. All right. So we were doing a feedback survey the other day for one of our events, and I had to come up with questions. And I was out raking the yard, right? I was raking the yard. Thought of every survey question. Went down to sit at the laptop. Done. Didn't remember anything.
Ever.
And so it's like shower thoughts or if you're doing anything else.
Yep.
And so a lot of these traditional ways that I learned to do business after I got out of the military is still sticking with me while I do this. And so. And it doesn't have to be for business. It could be for your personal mental health or your own well-being. Is that a lot of those avenues which seem untraditional are probably the best thing for you. But we always want to face this problem head on. If I read another book, if I listen to another podcast, not that podcasts aren't great.
I love them personally.
I think they're
no
amazing.
reason, not biased.
But if I keep trying to find the solution, it'll eventually get up in front of me instead of you are the solution. Somebody, man, who told me that you are the solution to all your own problems. But the thing is, you just have to do it. And so I think if we can show a little bit of guidance and emulate those things, that's the best thing you can do for a human being is, kind of live that journey. And as you had said, don't let things get too bad. Just keep being more productive is not the word I like to use. I don't like the word productivity sometimes. Yeah. But just keep sustaining where you're at, you know? Like there's always this pressure from society. I mean, it's a very American thing, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's also to get better. You need to be better than you were yesterday. And while I like that,
yes,
why can't you sustain where you're at for a little while? Like
sometimes
kind of enjoy,
you have to.
Yeah, enjoy that little plateau. Not to say that that you can't get better, because honestly, like, my rowing could get better, my workouts could get better, my jiu-jitsu could get better, all that could, but man,
rowing.
I've made it. You don't like the rower?
I hate the rower.
All those things could get better, but the other thing that you don't do is you look at how far you've come. Yeah. And say, maybe I can just kind of enjoy this like peak for a minute before I go on to the next one. Yeah. But not let it get down.
If you climbed a mountain, wouldn't you stop and look at the scene for a second?
Don't get me started. Oh man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So how do I, first of all, how do I know if I qualify to take part with ProjectZero?
No, easy. Are you a first responder? Yes.
Got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Active, retired, I don't care where I come from. Can you show me credentials to show that you were? That's what we need. As a veteran BDD 214 is somebody who is a prior, current, or retired first responder, or frontline responder, doctors, nurses. You guys qualify too. You probably had to wheel people in the ER.
The ER is terrible.
Gooey, I guess is you call it. Especially if you work downtown, those are or in the medical center, those are the things we look for. Will at one point we have spouses and kids out? Yeah, and we might hold a family event. But honestly, if you want to qualify for a service, which is to either talk with our professional mental health side or you want to come out, those are the two things. Now, if you're a caregiver, so if you're somebody who does take care of your significant other, you're more than welcome because you're one and the same with that person. And we have nothing against that. We've had them request to come out, but accommodations sometimes we can't reach. That's another issue of going outdoors is accommodations. But that's it. That's how you qualify.
So how much money do I need to bring to take part?
Absolutely nothing. So
I know the answers to these questions sometimes.
Thanks to some of the generous donors from the events that we've had. We're doing a lot better than we did the first couple of years. The only thing we're not paying right now is fuel costs. That's just number one. It's just expensive. Oh my god. Number two is we're looking for partners for that so we can get there. And we're a future trip. We're talking with another organization of they've solved that problem. So how do we solve problems? We talk to other people who've been there and we solve those problems.
Right.
And we'll get there. Do you have to have a rig? Absolutely not.
How did you know my next question? Yeah. That's exactly where I was going to go.
No.
What if I don't have a Jeep? What if I don't have a Toyota? What if I don't have any of that stuff?
You don't have to. We do have people who have come out who want to volunteer their time to come out. They might let you drive. They might not. That's up to them. We all sign waivers, right? So anytime we try to bring professional spotters out. So we've had and we do bring first responders or veterans out, but they're volunteers. There are people who want to. You've been in the community, in the outdoor community. They're
oh my god,
they're like you.
It's a brotherhood there too. Like if you're a first timer, go to a park.
Yeah.
Like Marble Falls, Hidden Falls in Marble Falls, and just walk out there and walk up to a random stranger and say, "Hey, I've never wheeled before in my life. What should I do?" And I guarantee the response is going to be, "Well, get behind me. Let's go." Yeah. And they're going to take you out on all the 1, 2, 3 diamond trails and make you feel like a pro and teach you so much along the way. Like they really are. And the Jeep community too, even though we do badger each other and tear each other apart, which is even more of a reason why they're like the first responder community. It truly is like anybody. I gave from Hidden Falls, I gave a complete stranger a ride home.
Yeah.
And her and her husband are friends with us today. Because they just totally trashed their rig, not even on purpose in a mud hole because they're terrible, and needed a ride home because they had a trailer and they could pay fuel for the trailer, but they just didn't have a ride.
Well, we've seen that. We did last year. We did the Paladoro Challenge. It's going to come out in time. We'll actually have our own veteran group for the Paladero Challenge. That'll be or first responder. But we watched guys create a rig in there. Steering blew out something, and everybody just is like, "Hey, I got these parts." One of our board members, Ben, he had running boards and not sliders. He's like, "Man, I thrashed running boards," and the guy just comes over and dumps sliders for his Gladiator into the bed. They're like, "All yours." He's like, "For what?" He's like, "Because you need them."
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of thing in the community. The last trip we had, somebody had their 4-wheel drive stopped working from an obstacle. That's why my Jeep is up in Amarillo. And I said, "Hey man, let's get you home. I got a trailer. Let's put you on the trailer because I gotta haul all this gear because we provide everything that we can: tents, food, you name it. Like bring yourself. We're not going to clothe you, by the way. So unless we get some cool swag, going, which we've talked about. Is that hey? And he needed to get back to Austin. Well, that's on the way home. So get on the trailer. I'll drop you off at home. And he was thankful for it. I was like, "Are you sure, man?" Because I didn't want the intent here isn't for you to bring your thing out and to thrash it. But he's into that community. At the same time, the guy who isn't into any of that, or I should say doesn't own any of that, when he comes out with us, it's not a prerequisite either. So, what we're trying to do is create an experience. And that experience, maybe you own something, and half the guys that come out, they own something. They've never been out with a group like us. They've always kind of gone on their own, which is great. Which you want them to go back to, but maybe they want that little bit of community.
For sure.
And sometimes, listen, I believe we're built for community. I believe we're built to be around other people. However, I will say this, is that sometimes you need a little bit of solitude. But what if they come back to us as a regrouping point and then kick back out to their own adventure, or finding their friend who's a firefighter or a police officer or a veteran and say, "Hey man, like I've been learning how to do this a little bit better," and they bring them out. That's the cool thing, is like, how do you put yourself out of business? That, from a nonprofit standpoint, that's the end state, right? Is how do we not exist anymore? And I think that's one way, at least on that side, to go about it.
So just to kind of wrap things up here, give us that elevator pitch to the $1 million donor that's about to cut a check to you. And then tell us the best way to support you besides money, because every nonprofit, that's exactly what they say, is write a check. And rightfully so. That's what you need. 501c3s are a business just like any other business. They have to have funding. That funding has to come from somewhere. So we know you need money, but man, tell us how to support you on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, and just kind of close out the show with that.
Easy. So the mission of ProjectZero is to improve veteran and first responder mental, physical, and social well-being. And we do it, right? We do it through cost-free confidential counseling. We do that through adventure-based therapy, and then we also connect them to resources for continued growth. That is it in a nutshell. The elevator pitch is, here's what we really need. We need connection to qualified counselors, people who serve and from across the United States. While our focus is here in Texas, and especially in Houston, where a majority, if not all of our clinical clients have come from, is that if you have a background working with military, because you are military, or a first responder, and you've become an LCP, an LCSW, or above, is that it takes, maybe you make an availability for 1 or 2 hours a week. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where we can compensate as a contractor, because honestly, people got to eat, right? And then maybe that leads to something where we have more sustainable people along the way. That's number one. Number two, gear. Gear is always something that we could use. That's it's not in the form of money, but food sponsors. We eat really good when we're out there, because I think a really good shared meal with a group of people, a nice steak or something, works out really well. And if you ask the guy, I can't cook. They won't let me on the grill.
Oh, so man, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's just a skill set I didn't pick up. I'm the only child, man, so I didn't really
that makes sense.
learn that, right? So where everybody else, they can cook really big meals, but we've had when we were up in Paladero, we had one of the retail stores donate food, another one donate food. Those are cool things. We have a lot of gear. We have tents that we have, but cots for the guys if they don't have them. Camp chairs are always great. We try to make it as non-involved as possible. So if you don't have it, we'll have it. And we're getting to that point. We started to add to the arsenal of gear that we can supply. Volunteers, if you like wheeling, if you like going wheeling, you heard that song?
No.
You like wheeling? Oh my God,
I'm gonna have to look this up.
Yeah, it's one of the reels. So yeah, if that's if you want to give that gift back to somebody, if you want to take them along, we're more, as we produce more events, that'll enable us to do more events. I'm one person, so are our board. So we have one every other month or maybe every 3, depending. But the more people we have involved that want to share that experience, we can find people to put in the right seat to A drive, and they learn a lot doing that too. Spotting and doing all that, they start building relationships. That's the other way to do that. Of course, gear sponsors, we always do giveaways. Rhino USA is one of our sponsors, so we get recovery gear that we will give out to the veterans, or we'll raffle off if we need to, or the first responders. So some guys have got toe straps from us, or from Rhino USA. Those are cool too, and we use them. I'll tell you what, and then we don't advertise on purpose, but we do. Oh, hey, we're doing a recovery snip. Oh, by the way, those are great things as well. If you're mechanically inclined and we ever have a guy who tanks something, we'd love to have some shops in the area we could just drop in really quick. Some of that's just time. It's not necessarily that we're looking for the $100 or $100,000 check. Those would be great.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, the support comes in many forms. And I'd say that's probably the best way that, besides monetary, that we can use support.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you were asking where you could find us, right? Easy.
Absolutely.
So our website is ProjectZero.com. That was a lot shorter than what it used to be because it's just easier to find. Our Facebook would be the ProjectZero. And then on Instagram, we are ProjectZero_ADV. The adventure side instas really well. The mental health, not so much. It's unfortunate. We talked about that stigma, and we're trying to get there. But people see guys cooking and camping and around a fire, and it just generates a lot more attraction.
Yeah.
That's Instagram for you. And then we pretty much stick to our core, which is those two plus our website. You can go on our website. You can sign up for a newsletter that'll come out. We just had the March into April, although I didn't change the headline in time for it to do that. But it'll tell you what we're doing every month and where we're going, what events we have coming up, and on the different areas. If you're looking to connect to a resource, you can also fill out information that comes and generates to our general email. And so if you're looking for services, if you're looking to get out and involved, that'll go there too. Or you can just hit us up on Messenger.
Awesome. Well, and what's good too is, of course, as always, in the show notes, you can find all of these links tagged conveniently for you. You can click directly on those and it'll take you to all of these, the website, social media. I can't encourage you enough to please go out and support this cause. It is something important to Beefy Marketing. It's important to me. It's important to the world. We got to keep our first responders healthy, happy, and doing their job. But Kyle, I can't thank you enough for bringing ProjectZero to us today and telling us all about your baby and all the hard work that y'all are doing over there. I'm sure your board is great. I want to give a shout out to all of them for everything that they do for ProjectZero. And then, of course, to all of our listeners for tuning in every Thursday for another episode of the Beef Podcast and supporting these great 501c3s and these awesome companies that we have on the show. Man, I know that someone's going to come to you from this show because I've had so many people tell me, and it's not bragging, I'm just excited about it. They have told me like, hey, I had someone come in the restaurant, or I've had someone come into this place and tell me that they heard about me from the Beef. I've never met this person before in my life. So this is working. What we're doing is good, and we could not do it without listeners like you, without sponsors like Community Bank of Texas, and without companies and people willing to come and share your story. So I can't thank you enough for being on the show. Listeners, thank you once again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for another episode.
You've been listening to The Beef. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information that you can use. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, follow us on social media. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Beefy Marketing. Would you like your business featured on The Beef? Know a business that should be featured? Visit beefymarketing.com/thebeef. Remember, branding is about a connection with you and your people. Till next time, thanks for listening to The Beef.